Hello guys, recently I asked my audience, Livewire or Vue.js, without any context. And I published that poll on 3 platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And in total there were more than 6,000 votes, so it's pretty objective, I would say. And in this video I will discuss the results, so the numbers on different platforms, and they differ quite a lot. But also I want to share the comments and the reasons why Livewire, then why Vue.js, and then there was a third option, other. So what other alternatives to those two people actually use in Laravel community. So first let's dive into the results. Here are the results of the poll on those different platforms. So on Twitter, Livewire is at 50% and more popular than Vue.js, but on YouTube and on LinkedIn, Vue.js wins by quite a big margin. And it's not just from 5 or 10 votes, it's from thousands of votes. So what do these numbers actually mean? 2 things. First, that everyone lives in a bubble. So even with my big audience of thousands of people, on Twitter, there's different audience than on YouTube or LinkedIn. So if you ask about popularity of any tools, doesn't matter, Livewire, Vue.js or others, the answers will be limited by your audience, your kind of a bubble, so you shouldn't blindly trust those numbers. But the second thing about those numbers, I was expecting bigger numbers from Livewire because it feels like Laravel community is going towards tall stack, towards Filament, for example. Even Livewire was adopted into official Laravel, so the domain name of Livewire is now livewire.laravel.com, and a lot of tutorials and videos, and it feels growing. But I didn't see the result that I was expected. Vue is quite a big leader on YouTube and LinkedIn, and especially on LinkedIn, where people follow me not just for Laravel content historically. So Twitter and YouTube is mostly about Laravel, but LinkedIn is a general IT professional group, so people follow me also about professional advice and career thing. So the broader you get outside of Laravel world, the bigger Vue.js becomes, because Vue.js, it's not only about Laravel, it's broader. Livewire is within the Laravel ecosystem. Vue can be used outside of Laravel. But at the same time, if you're choosing Livewire or Vue, the difference in those numbers is not big enough so that you would choose just because from those numbers. The split is not like 80-20 or 90 versus 10. It's more about 40-60 or sometimes even 50-50, something like that. So it's not enough. It's not an overwhelming win to each side. So if you're asking the same question, what should you learn or adopt, Livewire or Vue.js? Both are okay, both are popular, and both have their own advantages and disadvantages. And next we will talk about exactly that, advantages and disadvantages, in your comments. But before going there, I wanted to also show you 2 more numbers. So Tobias Petri replied with his own State of Laravel survey from 2023, and similar question there showed these numbers, which is actually pretty similar. So Vue.js is 60%, Livewire is at 40%. And there is a small trend of growth over the year with Livewire and slow decline in Vue.js, but it's really insignificant. So these numbers kind of correspond to the ones on my poll. And then another poll from Twitter by Jack Ellis, this time founder of Use Fathom Analytics, and this was a different angle on a similar question. Livewire versus inertia, and inertia may mean Vue or React, or the third option was Blade. So see how many people don't even go into SPA or JavaScript or dynamic pages, they use just good old Blade, 28%. And from those who do use dynamic pages, Livewire is in the lead here as well. So yeah, these are the numbers. Now let's get into the comments. In the description below, I will link to the original tweet, which contains all 3 links, so you can read all the comments yourselves. But I will focus on those that represent the main trends, the main reasons why Livewire or why Vue.js. First, from Twitter, I like the thought by Mark. Relaxed criteria. For 1 dev, it's Livewire. For 2 or more devs, if one of those is front-ender, then front-enders should do their job with Vue and React. So basically, if you have a team with potential separation of front-enders and back-enders, then it's kind of a no-brainer. Each part is responsible for their part. The next comment comes from LinkedIn from Serhi here. Livewire is a mix of concerns between backend and frontend and should never be used on a project larger than a hobby. And he's talking about bigger projects and scaling separately frontend or backend, whether it's about technical scaling or scaling the team. And if you have Livewire, it's kind of doing both. So again, similar thought, if you have a team with frontenders and backenders, Vue or React as an alternative is a better choice than Livewire. Another comment from Luke Watts on LinkedIn, React plus inertia. And this comes from a developer who is more experienced with React or Vue, so front-end first, and has a limited Livewire experience. But from that limited Livewire experience, Luke understands why, but still prefers to optimize the front-end components himself. But he also raises a great point. If he was just a PHP dev without React experience, he would probably want Livewire. So here's where we get to the essence. Livewire is more suitable for historically PHP developers, back-end developers, who don't really want to touch JavaScript too much and don't need that much customization on the front end. But let's read more comments to get even more full picture. This long reply from Twitter comes from Cam, who used Livewire reasonably extensively in the past couple of months. However, he states that Vue provides tools that don't exist with Livewire. More functionality, for example, on-before unmount and higher granularity of the lifecycle hooks in Vue. That said, he loves the work by Caleb on Livewire, and this is actually what I like about most replies to this poll. People do respect alternative options. So if you vote for Livewire, you understand the Vue part and vice versa. So I really like that respectful community. From this comment by Carlos, I want to emphasize one sentence, that Livewire has a much smaller community around. And this may be a problem if you're trying to solve some bug or a problem. And in Vue.js, many people could help, potentially, not necessarily Laravel developers. Again, we're getting back to Livewire being limited to Laravel community and Vue isn't. So that includes the community that could help you with forum answers, YouTube comments, or stuff like that. On the other hand, this comment for Livewire. I love Livewire because you don't leave the Laravel ecosystem. And if you need something quick, easy to integrate, just a few tweaks, and you're good to go. So this kind of describes Livewire. This comment by Ikwan also represents it quite well. For personal projects, Livewire. For professional, Vue. Another factor to consider, the amount of job opportunities. So Yoon Im on LinkedIn says that there aren't many tall-stack jobs compared to React or Vue, at least in Australia. And I think this trend is similar not only in Australia, but worldwide. Now on YouTube, here's a comment by 891. For a bit of interactivity, Livewire is totally fine. So to get stuff done fast, Livewire. But I wouldn't want to maintain a Livewire-based app, which means long-term, bigger project, and separation of concerns. This is actually a concern for many people who replied to this poll. Another typical reason by Thomas here is actually pretty natural. So whatever people started with, they just continue that route. So if they learned Vue first, they're fans of Vue, and vice versa. If they started with Livewire, they will praise Livewire. So no reason to learn anything else at the moment. Logical, nothing to add here. Another angle of the same question by Dumitru here, who hates Livewire for bad performance with slow networks. And yes, Livewire has a reputation of doing too many server requests, which you can of course optimize and minimize, but in general there are more server requests, sometimes unnecessary, than Vue.js. And in the replies to that comment, a few people agreed. And actually we're planning a separate video with the team. I'll try to make kind of a showdown between Livewire and Vue specifically on slower networks and compare the results and see how much we can optimize from Livewire so that wouldn't be the case, because in some cases it's actually kind of a myth, almost like a meme, that Livewire is slower, and in many cases it can be optimized quite well. Similar comment by Ryan here. He's more productive with tall-stack with Livewire, but it puts too much unnecessary load on the server. So again, if you want to go fast, go with tall, but if you want to go more stable and you care about performance a lot, Vue React may be your choice. Next, this comment. Livewire is for those with backend mindset. So again, historically backend developers, PHP developers, but it's harder to debug if something goes wrong. So if you are familiar and good with Vue.js, it's easier to debug strange situations because it gives you more control over the behavior, and Livewire is kind of a lot of magic under the hood. Another comment emphasizes that Livewire is better because thinking about JavaScript is less productive, and that person would rather optimize server stuff, optimize PHP code in general, than think about how JavaScript works. So this is the comment about happiness. But in fact, it depends also on the project, whether you can afford to be backend first and don't care that much about front-end reactivity. So it also can depend on the business goals of the project or the strategy of the project owners, whether they care about UX more or about optimization on the backend. So yeah, these are the comments about Livewire versus Vue.js. I actually didn't plan it to be such a long video, but I wanted to read more comments to have a bigger picture for you of pros and cons and various logic points. And finally, let's take a look of what else was mentioned as those 10% alternatives or 7% alternatives, what else people use for reactivity. So Alpine.js, Inertia plus React, of course, comes quite often. jQuery, still alive, and that comment proves the point. jQuery wasn't mentioned just by one person. Also, we have Svelte here, Nuxt, jQuery again with 2 likes, by the way. Angular is also still alive, Nuxt, with these cases listed. So yeah, as you can see, there are more alternatives even to those 2 popular choices of Livewire versus Vue.js. So yeah, these are the thoughts from the community and from myself on top, how I comment those. What do you think? Would you add something to that? My overall conclusion would be this. If you want to go fast and you have small project, Livewire is great. But if you want to go long-term with potential separation of front-end and back-end and you care about front-end performance, then Vue.js or React as a strong alternative could be your choice. But again, both are good, both are popular, and both can land you job opportunities. Let's continue discussions in the comments and subscribe to the channel to get more videos, not just about how things work, but also about why, with such polls and discussions. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.